Welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're joining me today. So, we're going to be tackling something that I think almost every single modern professional feels right down in their bones, and that is digital overwhelm. Seriously, did you know the average professional checks their communication apps every 6 minutes? 6 minutes. If you've ever felt like your brain is just constantly buzzing or you're literally exhausted before you even start your actual work, listen, you are not alone. It's a very real thing. Today, we're exploring a really fascinating framework called the conscious leader. And together, we're going to unpack exactly what it means to actually guide a team in the middle of this crazy algorithmic age. We're going to guide leaders through modern attention traps. Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to take a second and just really reflect on something. Have you ever felt that visceral, tight-chested sensation, you know the one, where your nervous system just feels completely hijacked by constant digital signals? Often, it happens before you've even poured your first cup of coffee. You wake up, you grab your phone, and boom. Suddenly, your entire emotional field is colonized by the endless demands of the digital world. And the crazy part is how this colonization actually happens. It doesn't usually arrive as one massive, obvious crisis. No, it sneaks in as 1,000 micro-alarms. Think about it. A late Slack reply from a key employee, a tense message from a client, a dashboard suddenly flashing red, a competitor's triumphant post popping up on your feed, an employee's passive-aggressive thumbs-up emoji, yeah, we definitely all know that one. Or, my absolute favorite, the classic calendar invite for a meeting titled Quick Sync, with absolutely zero context. Right? These are not just neutral pieces of information. They are emotional intrusions. They totally bypass your logical brain and scream at your body that it must react right this second. But don't worry, here is our structured map right out of that digital wilderness. We're going to deconstruct this and build a real solution. First, Section 1 covers the modern leadership crisis. Then Section 2 looks at the weaponization of attention. Section 3 uncovers hidden digital anxiety loops. Section 4 is all about reclaiming your attention sovereignty. And finally, Section 5 tackles redesigning the leadership system. So let's kick things off with Section 1, the modern leadership crisis, from boardrooms to dashboards. Leadership used to happen in physical rooms with physical cues, but that room has entirely disappeared into a networked emotional system. And this brilliantly illustrates the massive paradigm shift we're living through right now. Back in the old industrial mindset, the whole goal was simply to command attention, project absolute certainty, manage workflows, and basically motivate through pressure. But today, the digital mindset requires leaders to actually protect attention, metabolize uncertainty, and carefully manage the signals, stories, and stress swirling around their team. The old question was just, how do we get people to perform? The new question is so much deeper. It asks, what emotional reality are we creating here? And exactly who is paying the biological cost to live inside it? Moving right along to Section 2, the weaponization of attention. The screen as the unseen co-leader. Because modern leaders aren't just competing with other leaders anymore, they are competing with the very architecture of distraction. Today, the screen is basically acting as a totally unseen co-leader in your organization. This happens through attention weaponization. Now, what does that actually mean? It's the conversion of human emotion into predictable engagement through algorithmic platforms that are specifically designed to completely bypass our reflective choice. Think about it for a second. A leader's attention is actively harvested by these platforms, and then it's sold right back to them in the form of urgency, outrage, and inadequacy. It creates this constant, grinding state of digital dissonance between the calm, focused energy your organization actually needs and the frantic, chaotic energy the algorithms demand. Because of this weaponization, your unseen co-leader, your digital feed, your buzzing inbox, it preconditions your emotional state long before you even interact with your human team. Neurobiologically speaking, a leader doesn't just log into a Zoom meeting as a blank slate, not at all. They enter carrying the heavy residue of market fear, algorithmic agitation, and AI-summarized conflicts. And if you aren't incredibly careful, you will unconsciously export that exact same stress right onto your team's shoulder. Which brings us to Section 3, hidden digital anxiety loops. Systems over symptoms. We absolutely have to stop blaming individual time management and start diagnosing the hidden systemic loops trapping our nervous systems at work. Take the async anxiety loop, for example. Step 1, remote ambiguity increases anxiety. Step 2, to soothe that anxiety, people start over-messaging, just blasting Slack messages at all hours of the night. Step 3, this constant messaging completely fragments everyone's attention. And step 4, that fragmentation causes mistakes, which makes management implement even more rigid control, ironically creating more ambiguity. It's a vicious cycle. The human brain literally hates ambiguity. It engages in what psychologists call threat completion. Essentially, your brain treats a missing digital cue the exact same way a caveman treated a rustling bush. It just assumes it's a tiger. So a simple message saying, "Can we talk?" is instantly interpreted as, "Oh no, you're fired." Then there is the visibility shame loop. Here, public metrics create constant comparison. That comparison creates a deep feeling of inadequacy. Inadequacy then drives performative success, people just pretending everything is perfectly fine. But that performative success actually hides real learning, resulting in incredibly fragile performance. So, the crucial point is this: the system itself is what's actually producing this toxic behavior. It is absolutely not a personal failing or weakness of the people trapped inside it. Let's look at how to fix this in Section 4, reclaiming your attention sovereignty and building what we call the courage container. It's time to shift from being a passive victim of the feed to an active architect. So how do we actually take our power back? Well, the ultimate goal here is attention sovereignty. That is the capacity to decide exactly what is allowed to enter your emotional field before you lead. Now, to be clear, this isn't about some extreme digital minimalism or running off to hide in the woods without a Wi-Fi connection. It is about building solid boundaries. Think about ancient civilizations for a minute. They used bells, they used rituals, they used distinct physical spaces to regulate collective emotion and transitions. We have to build modern digital gates just like that so we aren't completely emotionally captured by the network. And a huge part of building that gate is avoiding the vulnerability trap. On one side, we have performative vulnerability. This is heavily curated for impression. It asks, how will this make me look? It usually involves oversharing just to relieve personal anxiety, and it's totally driven by the digital ego. But on the other side, we have relational vulnerability. This is practice for genuine connection. It asks a much better question. What truth does this system actually need? It relies on boundaried honesty. We really have to avoid the trap of using AI to fake empathy or using social media to perform authenticity. Real leadership requires genuine, boundaried truth. To actually practice this, you can use the 5-minute leadership threshold right before you start your day. Minute 1, do a quick body scan. Ask yourself, where is the tension holding? Minute 2, emotional naming. What is the primary feeling right now? Minute 3, story detection. What narrative is your brain actively forming? Minute 4, values recall. What specific value absolutely must guide you today? And minute 5, signal choice. What emotional signal do you actually want to transmit to your team? This 5-minute drill acts as the pause between chaotic digital stimulus and your actual leadership behavior. It allows you to sense your inner signal before broadcasting it to everyone else. Finally, we arrive at Section 5, redesigning the leadership system, focusing on effective governance in action. This is where we take our actionable toolkit and move from self-regulation to redesigning the whole environment. A huge part of this redesign is the signal state story drill. This is a super practical mental drill you can use whenever you find yourself triggered by a digital message. First, identify the signal. What objectively happened? This separates the facts from your assumptions. Second, check your state. What is your body doing? This detects your nervous system's threat level. Third, isolate the story. What explanation are you adding to those facts? This slows down that dangerous threat completion we talked about earlier. And finally, reframe. What else could possibly be true? Open your mind to reality over fear. Actively using this drill actually heals the resonance loop inside your organization. Let's move to and see how this builds into the system before blame map. When you diagnose systemic patterns, you avoid that toxic trap of just blaming overwhelmed employees. For instance, when you see asynchronous message dumping, the hidden cause is often confusing constant access with true alignment. The intervention is setting clear signal architecture, like channel rules. When you see constant heroic rescues by your staff, your system is likely rewarding reactivity over planning. You need to identify true urgency versus just status theater. And when you see performative burnout, it's often a hunger for visibility driven by algorithms. The fix is establishing a strict visibility boundary protocol. Escaping these modern attention traps really all boils down to one incredible realization. The conscious leader is a climate architect. Emotion is absolutely not a distraction from your strategy. Emotion is the very atmosphere in which your strategy either breathes or completely suffocates. You are literally building the weather system that your team operates in every single day. So I'll leave you with a provocative question to ponder today. Are you actually building a culture, or are you just reacting to a feed? It is time to decide whether your leadership is truly sovereign, or if it's been surrendered to the algorithmic age. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Now go out there and build a better climate.